Good morning, everybody who is listening. Ooh, my chin looks really weird. Okay, so I wanted to update you about my trip to the alternative medicine practitioner here in my town. And, we were limited in our area in Florida. Not a lot of holistic people. We have a church on every corner, and they're generally Southern Baptists or apostolic, I don't know, Pentecostal type churches. So anything that is holistic or, like Buddhist or Hindu or Ayurvedic or anything that sounds other than the norm is not acceptable. So, that makes it difficult when literally every quarter mile there's a church. I can take you around town and show you the churches. I think per capita it's kind of like dating in anywhere. It's like 2-to-1 ratio for churches. But at any rate, nothing against the church, but you have to have alternative and diversity when you live somewhere. You can't just have one ideation. So I think diversity is important. So I guess I'll be the diversity in my area. We do have a shop that is centered around Wiccan people, and it's a woohoo shop. They get a lot of people that protest and etc. But it's a beautiful shop and a lot of beautiful people. And it's run by a dark fairy witch, so she's very cool. It's very interesting in our town to have that little niche in the world. But still, my best bet for any products that I need is Amazon.com. I love Amazon. So anyway, I go to this practitioner yesterday, and I have in my mind what I need to transform is something akin to a holistic practice, which takes your whole body and mind and spirit and soul into consideration when you're healing yourself, which is going to take into mind the holistic practices of Ayurveda and different holistic practices in which you use food, movement, and of course breathing, as well as meditation, and things of that nature, herbs, in order to heal your body of what is happening to you. And that's what the advertisement said. There's several practitioners in the location. One is an acupuncturist. I got to see him briefly. I got a really good vibe from him. I might go back to talk to him. But this lady introduces herself, and it says, whole body wellness. And they told me, we're going to have this long discussion about my life and my lifestyle and my living and et cetera. And I filled out this huge, paperwork. I took some of my information in about my eating plan to show her what I was doing. And so I was really excited for this appointment. So I go in and I sit down, and she seems very nervous. And she asked me, starts looking at my paperwork, and she hones in on a specific anxiety medication that I'm actually weaning myself off of. But with being sick and all that, I just figure I'll take my time, not worry about it. It's no big deal. So yes, this was my anxiety medicine that I took when I very first went off the medication that made me so sick from sleep. And I had anxiety attacks. So we're just taking our time, going slow off of it. It's not a focus for me. So she hones in on that particular thing, and she starts saying, you need to get off of this medication. I was like, you're right. I would like to get off all of my medication. Absolutely. Well, what I do is, we drug test here, and we hold you accountable and I can take your pills and I dole them out. And I'm like, wait. This is not what I'm here for. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not even close. I want to get off all my medication and I want to be well. And she's like, well, this is my, what'd she say? These are my modalities. These are what I'm focusing on, hormones and psychiatric drug use. And I'm like, but this is a holistic center. So you advertise that it's a whole body experience and that you provide whole body nutrition and all of that. And she just looked like a deer in the headlights. So I'm like, well, let's go further, So I started explaining a bit about what I've been going through and, what my goals are. And she just seemed very scattered. And I mentioned a couple things about Ayurveda and the different nightshade vegetables that I'm allergic to. And I mean, she just didn't, it's like, I don't know, she wasn't present. I am very, if anybody knows me, anybody's my client, or talk to me or watch my videos, I can have 6 conversations at once, tell 12 different stories attached to the stories I'm already telling, and keep up with all of that at one time. She wasn't keeping up with me at all. And so I was starting to get really, really frustrated, really disappointed. And so then she said, so then the teller came. She said, well, I can test you for Candida. And I'm like, well, or Canada or whatever she called it. And I said, well, I know I have an overgrowth. I mean, most people who eat normal, like sugary, high carbohydrate diets are going to have high Candida, Canada, or whatever yeast, an overgrowth of yeast, which is never healthy. The side effects can range from A to Z with Candida. I have tons of books about it. I've studied in depth about it. And I said, well, I guess we could do that. And I explained my situation and my living situation and, my process right now with being ill and earning income, etc. And she was just like, she couldn't function within that modality. She could not function with that. She's like, well, for $75, we can test you for Candida. Like, I guess so, but that's not something I'm really looking for. The gentleman on the phone had said they could do a saliva test for $189, which would, show most of what was wrong with my endocrine system, which would answer a lot of questions in terms of what's happening with me. So that's what I was focusing on. She hadn't mentioned that. So I said, well, I guess. And she jumped up out of the chair and she ran to the hallway and she yells down the hallway, do we have any Candida tests or any Candida tests? And the girl said, I think we have one. She goes, I'm selling one. Ding, bingo. This center is about sales. It's not about holisticness or, healing the body, or she didn't have any education in regards to nutrition or any of that. She wanted to sell that product. So I said, what else do you have? I'm like, at this point, I'm almost in tears. You saw me before I went yesterday. This is my heating pad, if you wonder what that crazy looking thing is. So, I was in tears. I cried. I never cry yesterday. This has been a really hard couple of weeks on me. It's been a hard couple of years, but it's been a hard couple of weeks, especially. And I'm just getting really frustrated. So at this point, I'm wanting to cry, but I'm getting really frustrated. And when I get frustrated, I tend to use my intellect to push people. So I'm like, what else do you have? What can you offer me that's of any value to my situation? And every time I try to explain more, she would cut me off. And she'd we're going to run out of time. We need to make a plan. Well, you're not telling me what I need. I'm telling you my goals and your goals are completely different than mine. So she said, well, I work with hormones, and you've taken way too many steroids. And I'm like, yeah, that's absolutely right. I am totally maxed out on steroid use, and which is horrible for your body. What it does is it shuts down your adrenals, and your adrenals handle your cortisol levels, which are your stress levels. So if you're living in a high stress environment, which I do, under the circumstances right now, we want to be in a peaceful, meditative environment. But I, live in a bit of a stressful environment right now. So, with your cortisol levels out of whack, or your adrenals fatigued or not working at all, which at this point, this is what my regular doctor is saying, that it's a high possibility that my adrenals are not functioning, which means that your cortisol levels are not working when your body gets stressed. Then it taxes your kidneys, it taxes your liver. It's your body is just not functioning correctly at all. You're exhausted. You're prone to infection. You're prone to various other health issues. Of course, your gastrointestinal is the center of the seat, as Ayurveda would, say. Your intestinal or your gastrointestinal system is the seat of your health. It can affect your emotions. It can affect your, hormones. It can affect your circulation. It can affect your breathing. It can affect so many areas of your life. So having a healthy gut is one key to having a healthy body. That's the center, part. Of course, airway, number one in medical, right? So breathing, of course, and having a good respiratory system is also good, which isn't the case with me at this point. But at any rate, she said, well, hormones, I'm worried about your steroid use. And I said, me too. And she said, well, you just can't take steroids anymore. And I'm like, well, when I'm in the ambulance and they're putting the forced air thing over my face and I can't get a breath, the only thing that's going to lower the inflammation in your body at that point so that you can open your airways is steroids. So if it's between getting intubated and taking steroids, I'm going to opt for steroids. Call me stupid. But so we had that conversation, and she said, well, there is a test that I can do in regards to your hormones. And I'm like, okay. Like when I called Ken and made the appointment with you, he told me about a saliva test that I could take for $189, that you take the test. It's going to tell me a lot about my body. What test was he talking about? Yes, it's the cortisol level test. That's the test he was talking about. I'm like, ding, ding, ding. Okay, we're getting closer to a solution. So I'm like, okay. She's like, but I want to do the 4-point test for you. And that's going to be a little bit more entailed. And what it's going to do is it's going to test your cortisol levels throughout the day. So with this test, we could find out whether or not your adrenals are working correctly throughout the day. And, we get the test back in 5 days, and we can tell you if your adrenals are fatigued, exhausted, not working, what have you. And I said, okay, so I take the test, and it comes back wackadoo. What happens? Well, you have to see an endocrinologist. And I'm like, okay, that specializes in adrenals. And I'm like, okay, is there one here in town? Well, there just happens to be one in town named Erica who just started. Like, okay, but I don't have any insurance. Well, you have a certain kind of insurance through, the state. And I'm like, but that it won't pay. It won't pay because doctors will not accept the government insurance that I have because of the type of program that it is. So even though you have it, nobody will take it. in town. Nobody. None. Nobody. So I said, this is what happens when you are, not making a huge amount of money, getting and doing spiritual work. You don't make a huge amount of money, at least not right away. And, most of the time, not really anyway. So I, I said, that, my insurance won't pay for an endocrinologist or, a adrenologist, whatever. And she said, what do you mean you have this particular insurance? And I just laughed, and I'm like, you really need to, if you're going to be in the healthcare industry, you should know what people like me and many, many, many other people in at least my state go through. People think if you're on a special program or if you're low income that, you just get handed a bunch of money or handed a bunch of food or, handed medical care and you just walk in and out of the doctor. That is not true. And I can tell you it is absolutely not true. You have to struggle for every single thing you get. And 95% of the time, the only access to healthcare that you have is an emergency room. And when you visit the emergency room with something other than a life-threatening emergency, they will very quickly tell you that you are in the wrong place, but you have no choice because that's the only place the insurance is accepted. So it's maddening. It's the fact that I don't cry every day, all day is pretty, whatever. And when I previously had the Obamacare insurance, I'm not political else. I'm not making any kind of political statement. But I paid, almost $500 a month just for me. And I had like a $5,000 deductible. And now it's even more. I think it's $11,000 for my plan in order to get that back. And 90%, I would say 85% of the healthcare providers in my city would not take it. And I was driving an hour and a half to 2 hours to go to a doctor that I was paying a crazy amount of money to go to, even with insurance. So the healthcare community is broken. And, something needs to be done about it because I don't know what needs to be done about it. I'm not political. I'm not what is that called? An economist. And I'm not, I don't have the right to make any kind of assumptions in terms of what we should do, but I know it has to change. At any rate, I digress. I'm sorry. It's like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I've been up since 4. So anyway, I did accept the cortisol test because I'm interested to see, and my other doctors can do testing, but their testing are a snapshot of that moment in time, and it doesn't really, show the cortisol specifically and the levels throughout the day. So this test is going to give more of a comprehensive understanding of where my cortisol levels are and how my adrenals are functioning. For $229, I mean, it was more than I could afford, but I really need that information. So I have the test. I'll be doing a video on it later. And basically, and then she said something about something called, now I won't be able to remember it because I have to look it up. It's an electromagnetic field bio something or other that they put on your chest or they put on your stomach, and they do this thing for like 8 minutes, and you pay $60 a month, $65 a month. It's kind of like going to a tanning bed. She gave me a free session. She says people swear by it. I think, it was called a Beamer, so I've got to look it up. Beamer. So I went and I did it. I didn't feel like anything. I just laid there for 8 minutes, and then the little buzzer beeped, and then I left. So it wasn't a real positive experience overall. I tend to be a bit of a challenge to people because I am who I am. Um, I want answers. I don't live by a what if or, do this and, just take it for face value. I want to know why I'm doing it. I want to know how. I want to know, how it works, what it does. I want to know the science of it. And if you can't tell me that, then you can't sell me that. Because if you don't study what you are providing, then and you can't tell me why that's going to benefit me, because it's a salesman in me, then I am, I'm not impressed. So at any rate, I went ahead and went home. So what I ascertained from this situation, I am my best advocate for healthcare. The healthcare system is broken, and my access to healthcare is extremely limited. I know that you can heal yourself with food if you can afford the food. You can heal yourself with essential oils. I point up there because that's my essential oil diffuser right there, that little white thing. It cycles all different colors, or you can choose one color. Amazon.com, $15.71. And then you can get your essential oils based on what your needs are. Spiritual, health-wise, or otherwise. Essential oils have very, very many uses that range from spiritual all the way to health, mental well-being, and etc. So essential oils can be very helpful, whether you're using them on your skin, in your bath, diffusing it into the air. So I use sandalwood and violet night before last because it's just soothing. It smells like my grandma. And last night I used Breathe, which is a mixture, which I'll tell you about later. But what I've determined at this point, this is such a long video, you guys are going to stop listening about a third of the way through. What I've determined is this. No one knows me better than I know me. No one has studied the big pharmaceuticals, the medicines I've been taking, have taken, and what they can do to you, more than I have. I've studied in depth Ayurveda practices, eating nutritional practices, and holistic practices. I've studied in depth yoga, meditation, the effects on your body, etc. I could probably, in the healthcare system in general, when the nurses and the doctors come in, when I go to the doctor or the emergency room, especially when I stay at the hospital, I'm generally telling them, no, you can't do it that way. You got to do it this way, and this is the way you piggyback the IV. And well, people say I should be a nurse. No, God bless nurses. There's no way in the world I would be a nurse, but God bless them, because it's a hard job. But anyway, so what I've determined is I am taking over my transformation. I can't count on, and maybe I will find someone, but at this point, I have not yet to date found someone that cares as much about my health and my well-being and my transformation to health as me. No one. And, the longer that you're infirmed, the less people you have in your life. That's what I've found. If you're not viable to the community at large, or you're not helpful to the person that would be your friend or family member, if you're not able to assist them or focus on them and their daily life, then they are highly uninterested in you. That's what I have found. Not always. I have, people that do check in on me and are concerned. But when it comes to day-to-day hands-on, let me help you kind of thing, yeah. They're more likely to take my help than they are to give me help. I'm not judging that. People have their own problems, they have their own issues. When you get sick, you need help, and you want people to focus on you, and I'm an attention hog anyway, obviously. But what you find very quickly is, as my mother said, your father and I are trying to grasp what little happiness in life we have left, and we have enough problems in our lives. We don't have time to worry about yours. So there you have it. I hope to be a parent that, regardless of the choices that you make, and good or bad, or regardless of what you are doing in your life, that if you have a difficulty, if it's in my realm of possibility to help you or to find somebody to help you, that I will be the kind of parent that will be there regardless of how many times you need my help or what I'm doing at the time. That's just, I guess, who I am as opposed to other people. But I am, at this point, taking over my health for my cellulitis, which is an infection in the interior of my skin on my leg where I fell. I'm using coconut oil. I stopped the antibiotics. When I started using the coconut oil, which was day before yesterday, the redness has now turned to like a darker yellowy brown, which is like an aging bruise. You can touch the skin now. The leg still aches because I still think that it's fractured, but that has not been determined. But the actual sore itself looks 1,000 times better. And I've ordered tea tree oil from Amazon, to put into the carrier oil, which is the coconut oil, which is helpful to that particular disorder, cellulitis. Also, chamomile, which I've also ordered, is also helpful for that particular disorder. So I have 2 things that I'm going to try to heal. But so far, just with the coconut oil, it's beginning to heal. Last night, I took zinc kerosene, which is the zinc derived from pepsin, which is supposed to help line the interior of your stomach. There's another herb called slippery elm, which takes care of inflammation, which I may try as I begin to wean off this other medication, because medication and herbs are still a medication, everybody. So when you take herbs and people are like, oh, it's all natural, it's herbal, no big deal. No, I know people that have overdosed on herbal supplements. People can die from herbal supplements. It's not a joke. Herbs are medicine. Food is medicine. So you have to, just like medication, you have to be very, very vigilant in your ingesting and maintaining your use of those types of things. I don't care if it's an herbal plant that's fresh. I don't care if it's a pill that's herbal, regardless of whether or not it says 100% safe, all natural. It is a medication. So you are, in danger of harming yourself if you do not follow the directions. So I took the zinc carnosine last night, and I am doing my world famous healing technique, which is cabbage juice. I had my daughter juice me a cabbage, and it gave me about maybe 40 ounces of juice. And I drank about 4 ounces last night. And I took my zinc kerosene. And I do feel a bit less swollen in my stomach this morning. My breathing feels a little bit better. From coughing, my ribs are just insane. They're just so sore. And of course, we haven't yet touched the cramping. But I have good information that chamomile is very, very good for muscle cramping. So we are going to be using Epsom salt baths and chamomile essential oils and chamomile tea. And I am also going to see if I can get access to chamomile flowers, which you can steep in a stronger tea, or you can make into a tincture, or you can, hello kitty, can I film? Thank you. So you can turn that into, a tincture, and ingest that. I've also, my father told me that an old farmer told him years ago that yellow mustard helps with muscle cramps as well. So, I have some yellow mustard, and, I'll be, not just taking it, but I'll be like mixing that with honey and some warm water and drinking that and seeing if that helps. So I'm going to make a more comprehensive video and get a little bit more professional with this here in the next few days. But right now, with the situation that I'm in, it's just kind of wing it. And I have a client that asked me for updates. So whether you like it or not, you are getting an update. So, overall, I'm just ditching the healthcare system. I am ditching the holistic community in my area because I've looked and looked and looked, and there's one doctor that my friend keeps wanting me to go back to, and supposedly he works wonders. He's a acupuncturist in my town, but I found him coarse and egotistical, and he hurt me, and he seemed to enjoy that. And when I went into his office, I was laying on the bed, and I noticed like all of his pictures up on the wall. And he's this very strong Christian man. He's known for being, this very strong Christian man. And I'm not judging. I'm making an observation. His pictures were all, up in the top. It covered the walls in the top and in, all over in the middle of the wall of the exam room. And then I noticed at the very, very bottom, the very bottom of the wall, like right in the middle of all his pictures, at the bottom was a picture of Jesus. So that just kind of told me the hierarchy of the situation. I'm sure it was unconscious, but all of his pictures with his shining face and all of his accolades were all from the ceiling to all the way to the floor, and right in the middle was, at the very bottom, was a picture of Jesus. So, not judging, making an observation. So I just was not comfortable with that experience. A lot of people love him and swear by him. I wasn't impressed. So basically, here I am. I am not as down as I was. It doesn't take me long to recover. Because you have to laugh and you have to just get through life. I'm going to recover. So my plan today is to try to get up and to work with the kids in getting the house into a more manageable state. And then I am planning on, and I'm going to be drinking my cabbage juice, taking my zinc carnosine. I think that's what it's called. I'll show it to you later in one of my more professional videos. And I am going to just go ahead and start with the DDP yoga. I'm doing the limited mobility portion. And we're going to start out with the bed yoga, and we're going to work up to the chair yoga. But at least I'm starting. It will help with my breathing. I'm also going to be doing pranayama, which is a breathing technique to help open up your airways. And of course, I'll be doing my eating plan. So basically, I've also ordered a couple of books in regards to Ayurvedic medicine practices and herbal remedies. So I am going to focus on my gut and my breathing as the two primary issues that have to be addressed. My mobility and the cramping will address as a secondary issue, but the gut and the breathing have to be addressed first. In addressing those two primary functions of your body, it then may come that the cramping is a result of medication that I'm taking or have taken. It could be a result of my gut inadequacies in absorption of certain minerals and vitamins in my system, which healing your gut, if you have leaky gut syndrome, will help. So, we're just going to, focus on gut and breathing. I'm taking my cabbage juice, drinking my water. I am taking my zinc and my B complex. I'm also taking a B complex and focusing on that. I'm also going to be sitting outside for 20 to 30 minutes every day in the sun to get my D vitamins up, and taking a calcium supplement with that, because your D vitamin requires calcium in order to absorb the D. So you take your calcium, you sit in the sun. That calcium is going to help you to absorb that vitamin D. That's why they enhance milk with vitamin D, because the calcium in milk helps to absorb the vitamin D. But the best natural source of vitamin D, which most humans in the Western world are lacking, is vitamin D. We're very deficient in vitamin D, which is a huge and important vitamin for organ function, brain function, all kinds of stuff. So we'll be getting into that. So I will be reformulating to some degree my eating plan because we're going to be going on a modified diet in terms of drinking, eating, and soft diet, and it's going to include a few different things than my initial eating plan. So this is a highly unprofessional video. I like that. But it is an update as to what's happening. So I am taking over my medical care. I am going to be my own doctor. And, I don't recommend this to everybody. I don't even recommend it to myself. If I could find someone that gave me adequate care, I would definitely do it. But I have to say, this past year, when I had the excellent health insurance, and my deductible was paid, and I was, everything was paid at 99%, they still couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and I had every test known to man. So, like I said, I'm my best. It doesn't matter what diagnosis you have. That's the thing. I would like to know, a word, like maybe a name, and then you can focus on that situation. But the bottom line that you need to know is this area of your body doesn't work right or doesn't feel healthy, and you don't feel healthy. So you need to fix it. So regardless of what diagnosis you have, your reaction to it is going to be the same, especially with the program of care that I'm going to introduce into my life. And that is movement, breathing, movement, diet, and mental health exercises, gratitude, and meditation. And, we will go from there. As I said, my stomach is already feeling better from my cabbage juice. And I did go ahead and let her juice it in advance because I just don't feel good enough to even stand up to do that. And we put it in the fridge. Generally, fresh juice is not, past 3 days, the enzymes are dead. So, don't keep juice past 3 days. 2 at the, I would say, I would go the furthest to say 2. But the best way to juice, especially cabbage, is for your health, is to juice and drink. So if it takes a quarter cabbage, it's going to take probably a half cabbage to get, maybe a quarter cabbage, to get 4 ounces of juice. You juice the quarter cabbage, you wash your juicer, rinse it, put it away, get it out again, juice. It's a pain, I agree. Now, if you work a long job or etc., and you have to, work throughout the day and you don't have access to fresh juice all day, at least juice in the morning. Give yourself time in the morning to juice fresh, room temperature juice that, right then. And then when you get home at night, do your juicing fresh. But in the middle of the day juicing, go ahead and juice ahead of time and do your prep. But I will be getting into all of that. As you can see, I do, I sense in myself a shift, whether it's in my mental, I think it's a combination. Because I am feeling better, just from my 1 dose of the zinc carnosine, and the cabbage juice, it gives you hope. And when you have hope, you have that something to hold on to keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and, sign off right now. But what I'm going to do throughout the day is I'm going to go ahead and, outline my plan of attack and what I'm going to be doing for the next few weeks until I feel, on a better track, gastronomically and airway-wise. And we're still going to be doing some research. And as I find out that information, I'll tell you. And I have a blood pressure machine now, so I'll be taking my blood pressure. I have a glucometer, so I'll be taking my sugar. And I have a pulse oximeter, so I'll be able to take my pulse. And I have a heart rate monitor bracelet, so I'll be able to monitor my heart. So, all of these things I'm going to be writing down. And of course, I am going to be visiting my medical doctor for my for blood testing to see, how that's working out. And of course, weight loss and inflammation loss is going to show me, how my process is going, and also measuring my body, that will show. And also just generally how I feel, my mental state, and, just my pain level. And, we'll start getting into more comprehensive, videos in terms of that. I'm going to go ahead and start with bed yoga this morning before I have to go with my daughter. So my idea is, yes, I'm in pain. Yes, my ribs are broken. But I researched it, and you can exercise. In fact, it's good to exercise and do breathing exercises when you have broken ribs, because if you do not keep your rib cage soft, which it feels like a metal cage right now, if you do not keep it soft, because ribs need to move and rotate and etc. with your body and your breathing, if you do not continue to exercise them as they heal, they can grow scar tissue, and they can become very rigid, which would make your breathing harder and, moving and everything harder. So we don't want them to heal in a negative way. We want them to heal in a positive way. So, as much coughing as I'm doing, they're not going to heal anyway. But we want to keep them soft and pliable. So I'll be doing my bed yoga. I may not be videotaping it today because my outer world does not, maybe it does reflect my inner world right now. But we'll be working on getting my outer world reflecting what my inner world needs to be. And, of course, that will make me feel a lot better. And, then we'll move on from there. So that's basically